Sleepytime Tales with Michael Dreyer.
Did I ever tell you I was at Slim Snarldog's last ever performance? Oh yeah, back in 1957 or 58 at Tumblegrums. All the greats played there back in the day, oh yes. Booker White, Memphis Minnie, Sunhouse, Little Walter, all the great blues artists. Someone tried to cover up what happened that night, but I know exactly who's to blame. You've seen pictures of Slim Snarldog, no doubt. He was a burly great man, tall and wide as a shed. He loomed over the rest of the band on the stage at Tumblegrums that night, his ragged, whiskey-gravelled voice casting out shockwaves of pain across an audience of rapt kids and jazz bozos with pursed lips. Snarldog was drunk on rum, which only added to the power and authenticity of his performance. He was a big man, so of course he had to drink a lot to get drunk, and he got drunk very often. So, between songs, he'd take a long hit from a bottle of Navy rum, one of the 3 bottles he brought on stage with him, and occasionally, Slim would make eyes at a woman in a tigerskin coat who was sitting at a table sipping a cappuccino and making eyes back at the grizzled old bluesman. Tumblegrums was founded in the ruins of an old Georgian music hall on Montague Terrace back in the 1940s. It started out as a cafe which happened to host live jazz bands. However, it quickly became a crucial part of the Linfield music scene. All us cool cats and kitties would percolate through the queues to take our coffees and listen to the newest sounds. I was terribly lucky. At the time, I was lecturing in the chemistry department of the University of Linfield, which of course is at the end of Montague Terrace. I was a regular at Tumblegrums back then. In later years, it would be an important part of the rock and roll explosion. I think Tumblegrums is still there now, although it's a great many years since I've been back. An hour into a set, his 5th of the week at Tumblegrums, and Slim Snarldog cracks open a fresh bottle of rum. He grumbles some scarcely intelligible words of thanks, and then he takes a gullet-stretching guzzle of the rum. I was out with your grandma. It was our very first date, believe it or not. She was a beautiful woman when she was younger. I was so nervous to meet her, I nearly ran back home. But I told myself to be brave, and I was brave. Just as our romance was blossoming, another was coming to an abrupt end. It was an open secret that through most of Slim Snarldog's residency at Tumblegrums, he'd been having a secret affair with the woman in the tigerskin coat. That woman was called Maud, and she had a husband named George. George was a war hero, an Olympic boxer, and he also owned a jazz joint and cafe named Tumblegrums. So, up on stage, Slim Snarldog's pulling from that second bottle of rum and wrestling devils with his harmonica. Maud's twisting a curl of hair around her finger, and George is seething quietly behind the bar. And suddenly, the enormous bluesman stops playing. He lowers the harmonica from his lips. His eyes darken and bulge like plums, and a trickle of blood pours from his mouth. The audience watch in pensive silence. Is this part of the act? Maud, whose immediate impulse is to run to her lover, leaps to her feet before she can stop herself. Behind her, her husband George polishes wine glasses, seemingly unaware of the situation on stage. Slim Snarldog sinks to his knees, slumps forward, falls flat on his face. Maud screams. George smirks. The audience gasps and natters. Your gran, now she was in training to be a nurse at the time, so she hastens to the stage to offer her help. She reaches into Slim's shirt collar to take his pulse, and suddenly she feels his neck muscles tighten. He turns his head, mouth wide open, and he sinks his teeth into her hand. Bit her ring finger clean off. That's why we never married. Nowhere to put the ring. As your gran flees the stage, Slim Snarldog rises up onto all fours, his shoulders arched in a most unnatural way, like a hyena. Every muscle in his body strains and twitches and threatens to burst through his skin. A thick foam of bloody slather forms round his mouth, and he snaps and snarls and growls like a threatened dog. Slim's manager and his band try to help their leader to his feet. He lashes out, his mandible working like a piston as his teeth slice through skin and meat. Pandemonium breaks out amongst Tumblegrums patrons in their frenzied race to escape. 130 people, all trying to squeeze through the narrow emergency exit. The stuffy air thick with cigarette smoke and Estee Lauder and screams of terror. I get lost in the panic. I look for my hot date, hoping to be her knight in shining armour, but I can't see her anywhere. I glance back to the stage to make sure she isn't being eaten by the wild singer. A whirl of burly brutes try to pin Slim Snarldog down, but he tosses them aside to scatter like flung pegs. The movement of the crowd crushes me against the wall, and I'm being slowly oozed back towards the stage. Slim Snarldog's dog snarls and howls grow nearer when a sticky hand takes mine. It was your gran. She led me out of Tumblegrums and into the cold, safe night. We spent the rest of our date in Linfield Royal Hospital getting her injury looked at, and we agreed that we'd definitely go out again, although next time we'd sit right by the exit. Meanwhile, Slim Snarldog's illness lasted for days. He wouldn't allow anyone into the place or else he'd bite them. Nobody knows how the standoff ended, other than that Slim died right there on the Tumblegrum stage after 3 days in his dog delusion. The official story is that the hard-living, rambling bluesman suffered some sort of stroke, which caused him to behave so strangely. The official story is a second stroke 3 days later killed him. The official story is a lie. The leading unofficial theory is that George poisoned the rum as revenge for the affair with Maud. The poison took 3 days to finally kill Slim. That is also a lie. The morning before that final performance, I'd woken late. I had a lecture at 8, but I didn't wake up until 1:15. I hurriedly dressed, cussing my stupidity under my breath, and hastened to the university. As I went to cross Montague Terrace, a speeding van veered across the lanes as if to hit me. I panicked and ran. From within the van, I heard deep booming laughter and felt the fire of humiliation. I refuse to be the butt of anyone's joke. I watched the van as it parked up outside Tumblegrums. Watched this enormous man clamber out, still laughing, as he lugged a guitar case with him. Over his shoulder, a tigerskin coat, a gift for his lover. It wasn't hard to work out that my harasser was a blues singer from the Mississippi Delta, a guy called Slim Snarldog. Slim would soon regret crossing me, and I would have my revenge. Back then, it was very easy to come by some terribly nasty poisons, especially for a lecture in chemistry. I made my own blend of poisons and toxins. As I sprinkled silvery powders into white dust, I felt like some powerful medieval alchemist in search of knowledge, an evil sorcerer directing horrors to his enemies. Security at Tumblegrums was lax at the best of times. George allowed his regulars to roam freely. It wasn't hard to slip into the bottle keep and mix the poison into Slim's rum. I approached various women in search of a date for the night, to serve as an alibi should I need one. Eventually one agreed, your gran. That means, technically, you only exist because I needed an alibi. For what it's worth, I've never regretted meeting you, Gran. But nor have I ever regretted getting my revenge against Slim Snarldog. George told me that after 3 days of relentless agony, his internal organs sizzling as the toxins and poisons ate into them, yapping and snarling like a struck dog, Slim Snarldog's manager finally put him out of his misery with a bullet to the head.